All right, hello again. So in this video, we're going to go over yet some more images. We're going to talk about images and image file types. We're going to use I'm going to give you guys some files and maybe some code and maybe some instructions. Instructions would be good, right? So follow those in the instructions. But we're going to basically talk about files, image file types, how do you export, some different ways to export some different things, JPEGs, PNGs, when to use these different types of files, WebP, GIFs. We'll go over exporting from Illustrator. We'll go over SVGs and how you can edit them and size them, and maybe a little bit about borders and border radius just to have some fun. And then we're going to throw them on this page. So this is our template page that you probably have seen. Hopefully you've seen. If not, I'll probably give it to you to use. But basically we're going to go over how to, what are the different types of images and why would you want to use them. So I have some code for you. Basically, we're going to kind of go through the stuff that's on this page. You probably will see a version of this page. It's a page that I'll link for you guys. It talks about the different types of files, JPEGs, GIFs, PNGs, WebPs. They all have a P in them? No, GIFs don't. And then the advantages and disadvantages of each. These are all examples of each of those different file types. They're all good at different things. And then some less used ones. SVGs are used quite a bit, but data URIs, canvas. There's lots of ways to put an image on a page, as you can imagine. But these are the most popular, these four along with SVGs. So those are the ones that we're going to do, if that makes sense, right? There's also should be a link in the code that I gave you about using SVGs. And the images that we're using, actually just downloaded them for you guys, and not making you guys do it this time, from Pixabay, but you can download these different file types from different stock photo companies and different places, right? So we're going to start with our simple template page again that looks like this. And then I keep forgetting to do this, but I'm going to do a save as, so I have a separate file. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to say to Save As, and I will call this Image File Types. Yeah, so now we've got a different file called Image File Types. Now I have to make sure that I'm previewing that one. So I'm going to click down in the live server down here in the bottom, and I'll click Go Live. And then now I know I'm looking at that one. You can always look up here in the URL bar and make sure you're on the right one. That's too small to see, but I'm on the right one here. So I'm going to give you this code. Hopefully, this is called image types content.txt. It has a .txt extension, which is a text file, right? Even though it's HTML, it's not a full web page, so it's just a text file. So I'm going to take all this and copy it. So select all, or just select it all like this if you want. I'm going to copy it, Command C, and then I'm going to go to the template file, and I'm just going to delete everything like we've probably done before inside the article. So I'm going to go inside the article tag that we have in our template, and it's all gone. I just hit delete, right? And then I'm just going to paste Command V or Control V. You guys know all that stuff. All right, so what did that do? That added a bunch of text, and see, I just did it in the wrong file, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Let's go over to image file types. I did it in the wrong file. I broke my own rule here. So I'm going to go back to image file types here and put it there. That's where I wanted to put it, because I knew that was wrong because I didn't see the new one. I'm going to go back to my template video and undo that. Just so I have my original. I have autosave on. So now I have my template file is back to the way it was, but I want to make sure I'm on an image file type. So I'm going to close that template file so I don't make that mistake again as easily. All right, so, and I'm going to close the sidebar here because I don't have enough room for my code now, because I've got this code pretty big. So what's going on here? I've got a bunch of sections, and sections are, you can put them in an article. There are different sections or parts of the article. Each one has a heading and a list inside of it. And then I just have some text called image goes here, which means that's where your image is going to go. That makes sense, right? So if you look at it, it looks like this. So I actually put some of the descriptions of these different file types in the page for you so you can have a handy dandy referral when we're done. That was the idea anyway. Okay, so actually I've got to open this sidebar because there are a bunch of files in there. So actually let's go make this a little bit bigger so that we can see everything at once. So I've got a folder in there for you guys called IMG, and then I've got a folder in there called Images Original. So if I want to see what these look like, a nice way to do that is I'm gonna go to open up Adobe Bridge, which is an app that maybe, I think you guys have seen this, and this is a browser app that you can browse images. And I just updated it, so it's probably gonna do something weird. And let me find my folder. So I'm gonna right click here. This is the kind of stuff you have to do sometimes. I'm gonna reveal in Finder, and then here is my folder. I'm gonna drag that folder to the Bridge preview pane. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I dragged from the folder Images Original into this preview pane, and I can see it now. So this is just a good way to kind of see images, browse them, and then see what find what you want to find, right? All right. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to do a JPEG file. So what are JPEGs good for? JPEGs are better. Let me make this slightly bigger. JPEGs are good for photographic type images, like photos, right? Sometimes you might hear continuous tone. They have millions of colors, 16.7 approximately million colors. It is lossy compression, which means to make the file size smaller, it reduced, when you compress it, it loses quality. So you have to be careful with JPEGs. It doesn't have transparency, it doesn't have animation. There is a newer version, even though that's the year 2000, which was quite a while ago, right? Called JPEG 2000. I've seen it like once in the wild. And you reduce the file size by increasing the compression. So I've marked these guys, I think, for you guys what to make them into. This one we're gonna make into a JPEG. It says make JPEG. See how convenient that is? And we're gonna size these all at a certain width so that they're all the same width, which you might wanna do if you're doing a actual web page. So I'm going to double click this. It should be able to double click it, and it should open in Photoshop. Oh, it's opening in my beta version. That should be okay, I think. And there it is. So let me make sure this fits on the page, the screen here. So that's a real image of Saturn, actually, by the way. So we want to make this into a JPEG. It's already a JPEG, but I wanted to resize it and show you how you can do that. And we're going to do this in different ways. JPEG, we're going to use the export as, which you've probably seen, but we're going to see it here again. So I'm going to go to File and Export as. Just as a side note, I could go to Export Preferences here. If I wanted to always do the same thing, I would go to Export Preferences, and that's where I can change the file type to whatever I want. Well, actually only three things: PNG, JPEG, or GIF, and I could set a quality. What is that for? That just makes it a little faster. I'm going to cancel that. Makes it a little faster. If I wanted to export this, I could go to Export, Quick Export as JPEG, and then it would not ask me any questions. It's not going to bother me, and it's just going to export it at those settings. But I don't want to do that because I want to show you this export as, which I think you've seen, but we'll do it one more time. So over here on the left, I could make it different sizes if I want. I'm actually going to go over here to the right side and make a specific size. I think I'm going to make these all, let's go 700 pixels wide. So I'm going to go to the image size and go to width, and then that makes it 700 pixels wide, which is, I think, will work okay for this. And it will automatically make the height the right size. And I think that's all I'm going to do. So I'm going to leave convert to sRGB because that's good for web pages. And I'll leave the in color profile in there too. We won't really get to that. We are doing a JPEG, so I'm going to switch that to JPEG, and I'm going to set the quality to 4. You can zoom in down here. You may have seen this before, but you can zoom in here and see the quality if it's getting bad. If I put this at 0, or 1, It's weird how all the quality sliders for JPEGs have different ranges. Like this goes 1 to 7. I've seen 0 to 10, 0 to 12. It's really weird. But if I zoom in here, see how it's gotten that's called macro blocking. So you don't want that. So if I go up in quality, then that kind of goes away. You'll see over here, this is the file size, 21 kilobytes. If I go to 1, it's 10 kilobytes, but it looks terrible, like garbage. If I go to 7, it gets a lot bigger, 93 kilobytes, but we want to make it as small as we can. That's called optimization. And actually the 4, I'm seeing a little bit of issues. So I'm going to go 5. That's a little cleaner. I'm zoomed into 300% though, down here. So that does make a difference. If I zoom out to 100, I don't see any damage. So that's what I mean by lossy. A JPEG is lossy. It will lose quality the more you compress it. But you do want to make it as small as possible. You want this number to be as small as possible without making the image look bad. It's a balance. That's your job. You're a human. You do that kind of stuff. AI will probably do this for you by the time you see this video. Okay, so I'm going to say export. And what size did we make that? We made that 700 by 525. So I'm going to go to my folder. Hopefully I can find it quickly here. And I'm going to go inside the image folder this time. There's nothing in there, shouldn't be. So I'm going to say, just leave the name the same, but I'm going to add on 700 by 525. I think so. That's what we had. So you may have seen this before, but it's a good idea sometimes to put the size in there so it tells everybody what size it is. You don't have to, but I like it. So I'm going to say save, and nothing happens. It actually did save, I believe, because if I look in my folder here, there it is. There's the one I wanted, right? So that's a JPEG. PNG, let's do a PNG. JPEG actually stands for Joint Photographics Experts Group. You really did not want to know that, and you will forget it immediately, but that's okay. PNG is a portable network graphic. It was kind of developed as a replacement for JPEGs long ago, back in the days when dinosaurs ruled the earth. Not that long ago, but a while back. Okay, so where's the more we're going to make a PNG? I think we're going to make this one a PNG, even though that's kind of a weird one to make a PNG, but we'll do it anyway. So PNGs are also okay for, let's go back to our page here. PNGs can have transparency. So where's PNG? PNG. So there's 2 versions of PNGs. There's 8-bit and 24-bit. One has a smaller file size, but fewer colors are in it. And then one has a bigger file size, but more colors. You may hear of 24-bit called full color. And then 8-bit is going to have fewer colors. What is a bit? We should back up just a little bit. It's a switch. You know how you always see on The Matrix or other really old movies how data is represented as 1s and 0s? They're actually kind of little switches, pluses on and off, right? So each bit is a yes or a no, on or off. If you multiply that times 2 to whatever, you get the bit depth. What does that mean? 8-bit means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. I lost track. 8 times, which ends up being 256. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 8 times. I can't count, say 2 times that much. It is 256. That's how many, that's the bit depth of an 8-bit image. 24 is 2 times 2, 24 times. So that's where you get that 16.7 million-ish number, something like that. So PNGs can have full transparency. That's one cool thing about them. I have in here, it has poor browser support, but actually it's fine now. I should take that out. I'll take that out. And then it does support different types of files like RGB, that's red, green, and blue. That's what we're doing. Index color, which is like 8-bit images, grayscale, and bitmap. You don't really have to worry about that too awful much. But it does have alpha channels, which is a way to embed transparency and things. All right, enough about that. So let's make this into a PNG. I'm going to, let's open, I was going to show you PNGs. Here's a PNG, right? It's got transparency in it. Remember, a PNG can have transparency. So can a PSD. So a PNG is our web file. PSD is our Photoshop file. So we're going to use the Photoshop file to export from. just to show you how that works. So I'm going to double click that. It opens in Photoshop. When you see this checkerboard pattern in Photoshop, that means it's transparent, right? So let's do this. Let's go to File, and we'll use the Export As again. And this time we're going to choose PNG as the file type up here in the top right. And you can see now if I uncheck transparency, it's going to have a white background. If I check it, it has a checkerboard background, a transparent background. I can click this smaller file. That's how you make an 8-bit file, 8-bit PNG. Right now, my file size is 55 kilobytes. So let's check that and see what happens. Oh, look at that. It went from 55 to 9.5, 9.5. That's 9.5. So that did make it quite a bit smaller, and it looks the same as far as I know, as far as I can tell. It's got some we're not going to worry about this right now, but it does have some jagged edges there. And I think that's from when I got I'm going to uncheck that and see. Oh, see, that is making a difference. So this is a good point. So when I do the 24-bit, it's 55 kilobytes, but it has, I'm going to zoom way in so you can see it. This is good to know. That's called anti-aliasing. How far can I go? 500. That's called anti-aliasing. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there are tiny little halftone pixels in there that kind of smooth out the jagged edges on that. If I go to an 8-bit file, those go away and it becomes what people call the jaggies. So actually I'm going to use a PNG 24 because I don't want that jagged edge. It'll look like 1985 icons. So that's fine. I'm going to use that. It's going to be 55 kilobytes. That's still pretty small, but as an example, it's fine. So image size, width, we're going to make it. We're going to make everything 700 pixels, like I said. So this one's 700 by 503, and I'm going to leave everything else the same. I don't have to touch anything else. I'm going to say, oh no, my file size went down because we changed the size, right? And you probably seen me say this before, but you always want to. You don't want to use a full-size image when you don't need a full-size image. I don't need the original 1200 pixel wide one, so I'm going to make it 700 pixels wide. Because I know in my brain, in my little brain, that I'm not going to need an image bigger than that, so why would I make an image bigger than that? So that's one way to optimize an image, right? I went from 55 to 17. So yeah, what we don't want to see is like there's a giant image on your web page that you just scaled down with HTML or CSS and it's making the whole web page slow. You don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to say export and let's put the size in there. What was it? 700 by 503. I'll just leave that on there. 700 by 503 and save. So that was a PNG, right? So now we've got a PNG file and a JPEG. All right, what's next? Sorry if I'm going a little fast, but you guys have done some of this before, I believe already, but I wanted to go through this together all at once here. So the next one is a WebP. WebP is a newer file format. Let's see what that says here. It's a newer image format. It provides more compression and better compression. Sounds like advertising, actually. Can I zoom in so you guys can see this? Should be a little bit smaller file size than PNGs and JPEGs at equivalent quality. Does have transparency. It's from Google. That's why it looks like an ad, because everything's an ad on Google. So it's called a WebP. You're seeing it more and more. I see it more and more on the web. Yeah. So let's go back to our Adobe Bridge. And one of these I said make a WebP. Oh, this beautiful image here. I took this one myself when I was on vacation. So it says it's a JPEG, but we want to make it a WebP. So I'm going to double click it. It should open in my Photoshop. And this one does not, you cannot do this one at the time of this video under Export As. If I go to Export As, I don't believe there is no WebP in there. So we're going to do this one as a Save As. For a while, you couldn't do this one at all. You had to use a special plugin, but I think you can do Save As now. So I just am going to go to File and Save As, which is another way that you can save things. Save As. And under Format here, right there under Format, I'm going to choose WebP. And I can't resize it this way, I don't believe, unless it lets me here at the end. We'll see. I'm gonna click Save. No, so it's not going to let me resize. So let me cancel that because I want to make this 700 pixels wide first. So I just canceled that. I'm gonna go to Image and Image Size, and I want to change this. I know I'm going too fast, huh? I'm gonna go to Image and Image Size, and I'm going to change this to pixels, and I'm gonna change my width to 700. Since I can't change it on the export, I'm gonna change it before I export. So I will say OK, and now it's the right size already. Now I will save it as a WebP. So I'm gonna go to File and Save As. And I will save it as a WebP. What is my file size? My image size, oh, sorry. 700 by 383. So I'm gonna go to File, Save As, choose WebP, and add the size 700 by, I forgot what it was. I'm gonna put 500 even though it's not. I forgot what that said. But I wanna make sure that something's in there as far as the size. The width is right. And make sure it goes to my image folder. There is a quality slider in here. I'm gonna just leave it, let's just pick medium. One of the downsides of this is you can't see what it looks like until you do it. There is a lossy and lossless. If I click lossless, there's no quality slider. I'm gonna do lossy and see what happens. All right, so now I've got 3 images done. I've got 2 more to go, I think. Oh yeah. So the next one we're gonna do is a GIF. So GIF stands for, it's really GIF, graphical image file format. Some people say GIF, right? You can animate them. Let's go look what a GIF can do. Where's my GIF? Here it is. Oh, I'm out of order a little bit. Sorry about that. So this image is a GIF file. It's better for images of large areas of flat color like graphics, logos, etc. It's lossless basically, although there is a lossy version. You can only, one of the main things is it can only have 256 colors or less. 256 or less, so that is a restriction. It does allow animation. That's all the fun GIFs you see on the internet. They've kind of made a comeback in the last few years. It does have transparency, but it's 1-bit transparency. What that means is each pixel is either all the way on or all the way off. There's no fading out. There's none of that halftone pixel stuff we saw in the PNG file. And you reduce the file size by reducing the number of colors. That's what you do. So let's go ahead and do a GIF. I'm gonna go back to my files here, and the one I'm gonna make into a GIF says GIF on it, there we go. It is a PNG right now, but I'm going to make it into a GIF. And this is a good candidate to make into a GIF because it has those large areas of flat color. So that's why GIFs are better for things like logos and stuff like this. Flat art, flat image-based art. All right, so I'm going to double click that one, and there it is. This time I'm gonna do Save for Web. I'm gonna go File and Export, and then at the current, when this video is, when I'm recording this video anyway, it has Save for Web Legacy, which sounds like a really cool movie, but it's not. It is a way that you can export images from Photoshop that they kept threatening to get rid of, and then people wanted it around, and they keep it. I don't know why they still have Legacy on there. It's been around for 20 years. But I think it's cool because it has, you can see a lot of things at once. So up at the top, this is what's a little bit important here. You can do the original, you can show the optimized version, you can do 2-up or 4-up. What does that mean? I can click on 4 up and I can see 4 versions at once and change the settings on all of them to see which one works best and which file size is the best. That's why it's good. That's actually in the export as dialog. I didn't show you either, but it only has 2 up. It doesn't have 4. So this one's twice as good, if you ask me. So I'm going to go to 2 up because I know I'm going to use this one as a GIF. Here's the original. It's 4.68 megabytes, which is way too big. Here is a GIF. So you change the format up here in the top right. I'm going to click on GIF. It's already on there for me. And then I pick the number of colors to change the file size. There is a lot of other things you can do in here as far as dithering and matting and transparency and things. It would take 20 minutes to go through all this, so I'm gonna just leave it the way it is. But I did want to show you, you can go like, there's 2 colors, right? And then you're gonna look down here and see what the file size is. 24 kilobytes. That does not quite look like this one though. You want it to look as close as possible to that one, which it does not. So I'm gonna keep going up in colors until it looks comparable. I'm even gonna zoom in a little bit so I can make sure I'm seeing what I want to see. So it looks like I don't have white, so I'm gonna keep going. That's 4 colors. There's 8 colors. It's looking better, but you see I do have a little bit of, let me zoom in a little more. I do have some jaggedy edges and things. I can use my space bar to move around. Or actually, I don't even need the space bar. I can just move around like that. Still got some junk around the edges there. I'm gonna go to 16 colors. You see, as I increase the number of colors, things start to look better. These are the actual colors that it's using. And you don't really probably need to change any of this stuff. You can, like I said, there's a lot of options, but we're not gonna do that because it'll take too long. I think I need maybe a few more colors. I'm gonna go to 32. Every time I go up, it gets a little bit closer to the original. Well, let's go 64. I think that's pretty darn close. I'm zoomed way in. I'm at 200%. And it looks good. I'm gonna move around a little bit and make sure, and then I'll zoom out. Yeah, looks good. So my original is 4.68 megabytes, like we said. That's a PNG file. My GIF file is 33 kilobytes. That's tiny. And I haven't even resized it yet. So to resize it, I'm gonna go right here to image size. And I will put in there 700, right? Now it's 700 by 698. Maybe I can remember that one. And now the size is, I'm gonna click here to make that actually happen. 16 kilobytes, that's tiny. That's like a text file. That's less than a text file. So it does a pretty good job with compression or resizing an image if it has flat colors. If it had gradients or like full color like a photograph, it would not do as good a job. Or if it had a lot more colors, anything like that. All right, so I think I'm good. I'm gonna click on that. It's 600 or 700 by 698. Let's save it. I don't know when this is going to random folders. Save it with 700 by 698. I actually did remember that number that time. Save. Latin characters. Okay. I'll have to check that. I don't know why that is giving me that warning. I don't think I put any Latin characters in there. Interesting. Okay, we'll see. All right, so that was the GIF. The last one is an SVG. So SVG, let's go to our file, is a scalable vector graphic. So SVGs were kind of a replacement back in the day for Flash files. None of you guys remember that unless you're over 150 years old. But Flash files were old vector-based images and animations and things from Adobe, and they were vector-based, so they were small. So vectors are descriptions of colors and shapes versus actually bitmaps. The difference is when you have a bitmap image, you're describing every pixel. In some way, there's some compression, but you're describing every pixel. An SVG or a vector base, you're kind of describing the shape. So instead of describing a bunch of pixels that form what looks like a circle, you're going to say make a circle and give me this color, make it in this color, And that is a lot faster way to describe a circle or make a circle image. I don't know if that made sense, but think of it as a sort of a description of the image. And I'll show you what it actually looks like here in a second. So it's not based on pixels, it's based on descriptions. Yeah, replacement for Flash, small file size usually. It scales without degradation. So what does that mean? It's resolution independent. That means that you can scale it any size you want and it still looks good. If you take a bitmap image like a photograph or any sort of bitmap image and you make it really big in the browser, for example, it's going to lose quality because there's just not enough information there. But the browser actually renders these vector graphics are resolution independent, so they can get as big as you want. You can put them on the side of a building and they still look good. High-res displays, right? SVGs don't work in IE8. Who cares? That's pretty old. You can be used for backgrounds, can be directly embedded on a page. I'm not showing you that in this video, but they can be. You can modify them by CSS since it's like XML. And it has filters, all kinds of things you can do with SVGs, including animate them. We're not doing that in this video, of course, but lots of possibilities with SVGs. Okay, so this time we're going to go back to our files here, and I've got an Illustrator file, which is .ai. Oh, I never noticed that. It's AI. It's not really AI, it's just Illustrator. So I'm going to double click on that one, and hopefully it opens in Illustrator. And I just updated Illustrator, that's why it's doing that. And then, waiting. There it is, right? So I got this two ways because what I found is when you open an SVG or an AI file, a lot of times it's going to be on this artboard thing. And we don't want this white background. We want this to be transparent. So I've got this. This is the vector shapes that make up that Illustrator file or that image of Saturn again. So these are just shapes with gradients and colors inside of them, and they end up looking like Saturn. If I go to the layers panel, you can see how this is constructed. So some of you guys have had Illustrator classes or you know Illustrator, but that is how you make, that's what a vector image is a lot of times. It's a bunch of different paths that have different colors and gradients and things inside of them. So what I did was I took this and I grouped it all. I just did Command G to group it, and I made this guy. So now when I click on this, it selects the whole thing. See, if I click on this one, it only selects individual pieces, which I don't want. I want all this. Then I went to the window called Asset Export. It's right here. And let me get rid of this because I already did it and it's still in there. So when I want to export this, I can make sure I select that guy, drag it into Asset Export. There's more than one way to do this, but I'm doing it this way. And I want to export an SVG. So you can see, there's a big drop down there. There's a bunch of options. I'm going to do an SVG. Illustrator is vector-based, although it does do pixel-based stuff, but and we want SVGs to be. SVGs are vector-based. So that is all I'm going to do. I'm not going to scale it or anything. I'm going to click Export and go to my folder where my images are, and I'm going to say I'm going to choose that folder, and it doesn't ask me to save it or anything. It just called it Asset 2, so I can fix that if I want. But if I look in my folder, it's hopefully in there. There's the SVG folder. So it makes this folder automatically. And then there is the SVG. So it doesn't have a size. Because it's a vector graphic, it can be any size. Let's change the name of this to Saturn.svg and get it out of this SVG folder. I'm going to put it in the image folder because I want all my images in there. So they're all in there. We did it. Okay, so now let's put them on our page. Pretty easy to do. I probably don't really need to do this with you guys, but we'll do it anyway. So I'm on my image file types page, and where did my page go? It's underneath here. There it is. And we're gonna put all these on the web page. So first one is a JPEG. Let's go to our file. There's JPEG. It says image goes here. So how do I put an image on a page? You guys know this. I'm going to do IMG and hit enter, and that uses Emmet to come up with the image tag. And then I'm going to start typing my image folder name, which is IMG. There it is. And we want to look for the JPEG. There it is. So, and then we're going to make sure we put our alt in there, because even though it's going to be Saturn every time, remember you need to put your alt attribute in there so that the any screen readers or anything will know what kind of file that is, or what the image is of. All right, let's actually save some time and copy and paste here. I'm going to copy all that, go down to the next one, which is a GIF, where it says image goes here. Let's paste, but it's obviously a different image, so I'm going to go delete that, put a slash, and then find GIF. I know I did that very fast, but now we are looking at the GIF. Here's the GIF, right? So there's the GIF that we made. It's still Saturn, so you can leave that the same. And we have a little bit of styles to put in here at the end to make this look at least a little bit better, because obviously it's not looking that, theirs are too big and things like that. So the next one is PNG, right? Let's actually do this one the old school way. Let's type it ourselves instead of copying and pasting. IMG. And then IMG is the folder, and this one is the PNG. So look for the PNG. Oh, it's the first one there. And then Saturn. Okay. And then the WMP one, or the WebP one. IMG, and then IMG again, because that's the folder name, and then we're doing the WebP, which is this guy. Ooh, that is pretty. That was a fun trip. And then I'm going to go Saturn here. You guys can slow this video down if you need to. I'm going a little fast. The last one is the SVG. So down here, we're going to go to, and you can put in SVGs a lot of different ways, but we're going to use the image tag again. That's one way to do it. And we're going to put IMG, and then we're looking for the SVG. There's the Saturn SVG, and the alt is Saturn again. Saturn. All right, remember it's just a description of the image as the alt attribute. All right, so now, whoops. Now, if I want to see what this page looks like, it looks like this. Here is the, I'm going to zoom out to a normal size. Here's the JPEG file. Here's the PNG or the GIF file. Here's the PNG file. And I wanted to show you this with a different color background, which I will in a second. This is transparent. That's what's cool about the 24-bit or the 8-bit PNG. It's got transparent parts. I can grab this and kind of see that. We'll change the background here in a second. Here's the WebP file. Here is the SVG. Like I said, SVGs have no inherent size usually, and it is transparent. Check that out. You can see through it, right, through the empty parts. So we need to size that. So let's just add a couple of pieces of CSS to this file. All right. So I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm going to make sure that this does not, if I inspect this here, and I go to mobile view, we saw this before, I think. Hopefully you saw this in a different video. These images are bigger than the mobile device, the iPhone SE that I gave my mom because I'm cheap. I didn't want to give her a good phone. So yeah, we need to make sure that these images do not do that, do not leak out. So how do we do that? I think you've seen this before. We're going to go down below the nav and the footer. CSS, just start adding a little bit more CSS. We're going to say image max width. Hopefully you remember that, 100%. Did that fix it already? It did. It already fixed it. So now the image, the maximum width of the image is 100% of its container, which in this case is the whatever it's inside of, the wrapper, I believe, or the section. basically. Okay, and then we're gonna say, to make sure that the aspect ratio doesn't change, we're gonna say height auto, just for safety first, safety reasons. We also want to, I wanted to show you just a little bit, a little added bonus, a little bit about border and border radius, in case you haven't seen it yet, depending on which order we see these videos in. But I'm going to style the sections just a little bit. So I'm going to go to section. Remember, each of these is a section, right? Each of those boxes, well, they're boxes, but you can't see them yet. So we're going to say border, and then we're going to do 2 pixels, solid, and we're going to do RGBA, and then I'm going to do 0, 0, 0, 0.1. What does that do? Let's get out of this mobile view. There we go. That makes a little tiny semi-transparent border that is black. RGB 000 is black. The A stands for alpha. You've already seen this before, I think, but that is 0.1. That's 10% opacity, so it's kind of see-through. I like using these black items with opacity because it doesn't matter what color they're on; they'll blend in with the background because you're seeing through them. They don't have their own color, right? Okay, so let's add, now we can see that the text is right up against the edge of these boxes, which is no bueno. So we're gonna say padding, and not auto, but 1 EM, which is about 16 pixels or so. So now we've got some space in there, some breathing room. Breathing room, right? So now those look a little bit better. Let's add a little space on the bottom. I want to spread these out a little bit. So I'm going to say margin bottom. It's a little bit of layout in this one. Sorry about that. It's not just images. Margin bottom 3 EM. And that puts some more space between those so that we can use white space or negative space to see things separately, right? Last thing we're going to do is border radius. So I'm going to say border radius. And I'll go back and describe the border here in a second too. I forgot to do that. But I'm going to say 5 pixels. Whoops, 5 pixels. What does that do? Border radius 5 pixels. It just rounds the edges of those borders just the tiniest little bit, just to soften them up so they're not so mean and pointy, right? So here's the border again. That's the 2 pixel thick border, or 2 pixels thick. Solid is the style. And there is separate videos for all this stuff that are more specific, but I wanted to throw this in there. And then that's the background color. All right, 2 more things. I wanted to scale this guy and show you how we can scale it and also see how it's transparent. So if you look at the code here, let me get this out of the way here. If you look at the code here for the last one, I already have it in there for you, I think. I have a class of blue on that last container, this one. It has a class of blue. It's not blue or anything. I haven't said what blue is yet. So I'm going to go back up to my styles. Remember, a class starts with a dot, right, or a period. So I'm going to say dot blue, and I'll say background color, and we're going to use 4 E's and then 2 F's. That makes this light blue color, and now you can see that's why I kind of wanted to do it. Now you can see that oh, that looks cool. Now you can see that that SVG is transparent, right? We can see through it. So you can put it on different colored backgrounds or even over a background image, and it will not have this blocky background, like a white background or anything like that. One more thing is to scale this guy. It still gets gigantic. We don't want that. The cool thing is it's a tiny file, but we don't want it to be like so big, right? So let's go down and add one more thing. And I think I already have oh, no, I do. I have to add a class inside of here. So we're going to add a class inside of that image. So I'm going to go inside the image and say class equals, and then in quotes, we're going to name this SVG dash image 1. I just made that name up. It doesn't have to be called, I mean it does, but in this case, but you can call that, you could name this class whatever you want. Remember, you can have dashes in them, you can have underscores, no other types of punctuation, no spaces, and you can't start with a number for some weird reason. All right, so I'm going to go up to the top and say, it's a class, right? It starts with a dot, and then I'll put the name in. I copied that. I don't know if you guys saw that. So the name of it is SVG-image1, and all I'm going to do is say height. Actually, we're going to make the same width. Let's do width. Make it the same as the other ones, right? That would make sense. 700 pixels. Height auto. All right. So now it should be the same. Oh, look at that. It's the same as the rest of those guys. That's pretty big. But you get the idea. So that's what's cool about SVGs. You can scale them to whatever size you want. They always look clean because they're basically scaling in the browser. That's not its actual size. And this is incorrect. I have the example below as 477. I copied that from that other web page. This is much less than that, this file. Okay, I know that was a lot. I threw a lot of stuff at you, but basically I wanted you guys to see that you can make images different formats depending on what you need. If you need a photograph, it's probably going to be a JPEG, maybe a PNG or a WebP. If it's going to be a sort of a low, like an icon or something with not very many colors, it might be a GIF or it might be a PNG 8. If it's going to be a simple sort of vector image, it's probably going to be an SVG. So it depends what kind of image it is, what kind you make. So that's the important part to remember. But I hope that helped a little bit. Sorry if that was too fast, but remember you can slow things down if you need to. But yeah, I will talk to you again later.